Hi. We are here to talk about website security. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Aaron Campbell. I am the VP of product at Monarx, a company focused on malware and security. And I have a long history in the security space, going back into about 12, 15 years ago, running the WordPress security team, and I've been tracking it along ever since.
Okay. So every week we hear about websites being hacked. What's happening right now? The trend is rising, falling?
Unfortunately, maybe the trend is rising. I think that there's a couple things that are really heavily affecting that and causing that to happen. Some of it is things like AI and the level of computing that's available to us to distribute attacks or to try to send attacks out there. And the other is less experience.
You think about using AI to scan the website and find vulnerabilities, something like that?
So, yes, but also when you do know vulnerabilities that you're after, what you're trying to deliver to the site can be obfuscated again and again by AI in a way that makes it way easier to hide it. And that's a big trend at the moment.
So you start with one solution and then use AI to morph it into another one?
Yeah, give me a million of these that are all a little bit different, and it will just do that, and suddenly there's now not one thing to block, but a million variations of essentially the same thing. And that's obviously way more difficult to block.
Okay. So, speaking about it, because previously the attacks, the malware, you were able to identify malware using signatures.
Yeah.
Right now you need to use a different approach because the software is morphing.
I think that we use the same basic concept of signatures, but you used to be able to use a signature for the file. You know, someone would make a malware file, you would be able to take a hash of that file and say, this file is bad, we know it's bad, every time we see it, we know it's bad, and that's it.
Because it's hash, it's like...
But yeah, it's a unique identifier for that file. But now, if someone can say, make me a million different copies of this, they all do the same thing, but they all look different, so they all have different hashes. You can no longer just hash the whole file.
So what do you do?
Yeah, so what we do is we essentially run the file first through deobfuscation, and then we essentially normalize the code in it by taking it down to what's called its syntax tree, the things that it actually does. Then we take signatures from that, and even though there's a million different copies of it that look different, once you've done all that work, it's coming back to the same bit of code that's doing something bad. That's what we put a signature on. That's what we look for, because that's the bad behavior. And you can even embed that bad behavior in an otherwise good file, and we can say, okay, all of this file is good, but this behavior is not. And and so that's the thing that has really changed, looking for those behaviors now and identifying those.
Okay. So, and when you look on a fresh infected websites, how you can recognize from a user perspective that it was hacked?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
Is it possible?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's really obvious, right? You go to your website and it's got a bunch of posts that you didn't make or whatever, right? But it's not always obvious, and that's where it starts to get a little bit difficult for the end user to expect them to do all the heavy lifting on their own, because a lot of these vectors are coming in and maybe they're adding a user to your site so that they can do bad stuff on it, but they're hiding that user from you, they're hiding the content from you. It's real common for, if you go straight to your site, just type it in the URL bar, you don't see the bad ads that they've added. But if you search your site on Google and then click a link in and you come from Google, you do see it. So now you're not seeing it as the owner, but your visitors are. These places are getting more, like these bad actors are getting more and more creative. And we're having to help users see what is hiding from them.
So my conclusion is that without the security software helping you, there is no way to detect it, to be honest.
Yeah, often that is the case. Often you cannot detect it, but hopefully we can, and we can lift it up and show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through the ways how websites are being infected.
Ooh, I'd say that there's two that stand head and shoulders above the rest on ways that sites are being attacked, and one is anything out of date software. It's easy to find vulnerabilities and then use them again and again if people aren't keeping their stuff up to date. The other is reusing passwords or bad passwords across many sites.
That ones that already were hacked.
Yeah, exactly. You used your password on this site, it got hacked, and now you use the same password on 8 other sites. You don't even realize, like, it doesn't even look like a hack because someone just knows the username and password and just uses it. Those are the two biggest. And then the other one that's up and coming at the moment is essentially so many people are creating stuff by vibe coding through AI and stuff, and there's a lot less understanding of how the thing actually works or what code is behind it, because AI wrote that, and there are gaps in that people aren't seeing, and we're seeing people get better at finding those gaps faster.
I thought even about something like that you can use DNS attack your DNS, and then act as a man in the middle and act as an LLM API and intercept. And when you vibe code, you're very vulnerable to such attack.
Yes, yeah. And some of those attacks are even more, like, that's more complex than often is needed. But yes, like, that is the kind of stuff that you don't realize whether you assume that the AI is coding this all securely and nice.
And to be honest, you may even not be sure which AI you're talking to.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the people that are now building stuff, they don't even know what language it's being written in or anything, because all they know is they asked the AI to build them a thing, and they built them the thing, and that's great.
And then you publish the thing on your.
But the security side of it, they don't know. So we help protect from that.
Okay. Explain how WAF can protect you.
Yeah. So WAF is honestly, WAF is one of those terms that's applied to a lot of different things in our space, I guess. But the simplest explanation is that the best security is a layered security. If you picture it like at a house, maybe you could add security by having a gate, but then also a locked door, right? But then maybe your most valuable stuff is also in a safe, and the WAF
then
helps.
Maybe check your pass or something like that.
Exactly, and so the WAF sits a little bit further out and is looking at the request as it's coming in, and ideally blocking obviously malicious traffic before it even gets in, and then the next layer can look a little deeper and then a little deeper, and that's kind of the biggest benefit of the WAF is keep the bad as far away from you as possible.
In a shared hosting environment, because there are more than one user on each server, is it possible that hacking one website can affect others?
Yes. Obviously, you all know that there's a lot that can be done to help silo those sites and do as much as you can to protect.
We are trying to do that.
Right, to protect from someone getting in here and essentially like tunneling over to there. But it can absolutely happen, and that's why people like you that are looking to raise security everywhere, improve malware detection and remediation across your whole fleet, helps keep each individual customer even safer, because not only are they doing something good to keep themselves clean, but their neighbors are too, and it makes the whole neighborhood clean and safer, you know?
Same like vaccination.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, because the whole population then can be
everyone's a little safer because you're safer. Yeah.
So, to sum up, what's your general advice to the user to not being hacked?
Well, I guess I'll shoot back to the top two ways that places are being hacked, right?
You already mentioned that.
First of all, keep everything up to date. Make sure that you're doing that regularly. Well, websites take some maintenance. It doesn't have to take a ton of time, but you need to put in a little time to keep your site up to date and maintained. Don't use the same password everywhere.
Okay.
Get a password manager. And
validate your password.
Exactly. And that's some stuff that I know that you all are doing to help protect your users as well. Working towards helping them have better passwords because it's better for them. And so that's.
And if you don't want to be affected by other guys' issues with security, think about better service like VPS or some kind of managed hosting to separate from them.
Absolutely. I mean, shared servers are the most likely to have that sort of cross-contamination possibility. If you have a VPS server or even like a dedicated server, obviously those are far more siloed and it's essentially just you. And so, that's great if that fits your business case.
Yes. Great talk. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.